So recently I made this redesign of one of the Vigor animations from Bioshock Infinite, when you first receive a Vigor. And I wanted to go over how I went about doing this redesign, what my thought process looked like, and what techniques I used while doing that. So without further ado, let's play the redesign right here, and let's get into the tutorial. So I first started off with the Foley. For that I just recorded this Almdudler bundle right here, and I made quite a bit of source recordings right here. So first I looked at the original video, and then I kind of thought about what kind of sounds I'm going to need. So I figured I'm gonna need like this plopping for when the bottle opens, like some handling noises of the bottle, some of the water that sloshes around the bottle, and like obviously like some drinking sounds. So I recorded all of that, and I arranged these recordings right here. So it fits with the video. What I found interesting about the original redesign is that if you have a look at the animation right here, you can see that Booker kind of lightly touches the bottle. So if I play that without any sound, it looks a little bit like this. So it doesn't really look that intense, but in the original design, there's like this big clap. So I tried to emulate that as well. For that I recorded like me punching my own hand. So I thought that would be kind of reminiscent of what the original sounds like. So right here, as you can see, I arranged all of the recordings. Quite simple stuff. On the individual elements, I don't really have that much processing. Sometimes there's like a disperser for it to give it that kind of thick video gamey feel. And on the group, there's this supercharger right here, which is just like a nice compressor to glue everything together. There's like a reverb to put everything into a space, but it's like really, really subtle. So not really doing a lot here, just some minor tweaks. So next up, let's go over the main FX, which are quite a lot. As you can see, there's like loads of effects on there, and it's the reason why this project file is lagging so hard. But let's go over these one by one. So first up, there's this growl right here, which is just a growl I recorded with my own voice. And I pitched this down by quite a bit, and I added some effects, which are also quite simple, just an OTT, a disperser, a reverb to make it feel more distant, and an EQ to kind of brighten it up a little bit and tame some of the low end right here. Next up, there's this like deep stringy layer. This is just some strings from labs, like very, very simple, just to give it the whole thing a little bit more meat. Next up, there's this interesting thing. This is like an ambience patch I made in Faceplant by using some different sounds right here in the granular oscillator. There's like a knife scrape, there's some more knife scrapes, there's a sine wave to give it more tonality, and there are just some random samples I chose from the Faceplant stock samples right here. And I mapped some of the volume parameters from these individual granular oscillators to different macros, so I can kind of control the sound using these macros. And as you can see, I did that quite a lot. And I'm just automating some different some of these different macros right here to give the ambience like a more dynamic feel, so it doesn't feel as stale and boring. I'm also automating the pitch towards the end because I wanted to kind of replicate this feeling of there being tension at the beginning of the animation, and then this tension kind of gets relieved as the animation ends. As far as effects go, I just have an EQ right here, which is just pushing some of the low end. But I think I'm actually automating here I'm automating the gain of the low shelf right here to kind of remove some low frequencies towards the end. There's also this fun little plugin called Mishby by Freakshow Industries, which is quite nice because it is kind of a weird plugin, but if you turn off all of the weird shit right here, the pitch LFO and the delay, and you turn all of these knobs down, you just get a very, very nice tape saturation. So I use it for that to give like the sound a little bit more grit right here. So next up there's this bottle sound. For that I just recorded the trusty Almdudler bottle, and I recorded myself like slurping from the bottle. Let me show you what that sounds like roughly. So as you can hear, I kind of looped one part of the slurping, so it's like a consistent sound, because in the original design there's also some kind of resonating bodily tone, which I guess comes from the ability stemming from a bottle. So I tried to replicate that with this sound right here. And over here I just reversed the sound and put on some effects, which are also like quite minimal. There's just an EQ to tame some of the high end and remove the low end, because we don't need that right here. There's a frequency shifter to adjust the tonality a little bit. There's this fun multi-band auto pan by Melda, which kind of slushes the signal around the stereo image, which I found to be quite fun. And there's a little EQ just to tame a little peak I didn't like. So for the next two layers, there's this knife and flesh layer. And my idea behind that was that, as you can see in the original animation, like the flesh is getting torn away from the bone right here of the hand. And you can see like these little white particles. And for me, that like sounded like the flesh is being cut away from the bone. So I wanted to illustrate that in my design. And for that, I have this flesh layer right here. I made in Faceplant. That's also quite simple. There's just some vegetable gore Foley I recorded. In this case, there's a tomato and another tomato. Okay, it's the same recording. I put this recording in the granular oscillator, and I'm modulating the position with a sine wave. And I'm also modulating the position with another random modulator. So this doesn't sound stale, and it all sounds the same. And I'm also automating a little macro right here. The second part macro, which is basically just moving the volume of this second oscillator up by a little bit, because this is basically the same sample, but it is pitched down, adding like a little bit of a low frequency layer. Same thing with the knife layer. For that I also put like a knife Foley in a granular oscillator, and then I recorded that, and I cut together the best parts, because as you can hear, if I play this, sometimes there's a little bit of overlap between the same samples, and you can hear that it's kind of sounding like phasey, and I didn't really want that. So I recorded this and cut together the best parts over here. And I glued this and reversed this as well. So let's go over the effects real quick. There's this kilohertz dual delay to make it more stereo. There's a snap heap with the filter table glass twist table, because that gives it like a kind of nice resonating sound. And I thought that like kind of gives it the illusion that the knives are like a little bit bigger, but I put it on like a small mix. And I'm also reducing the dynamics here because I wanted it to be roughly the same volume throughout. So next up, there's a Pro R to give it some space. There's this little neat plugin called Cruncher, which gives it some high-end frequencies, I think. Okay, it's not really doing much, but I think it's giving it like some grid in the high end. There's this gain, kilohertz gain, which I'm automating towards the end, so the signal shuts up in the end. There's a soothe to make the sound not heard in your ears, and another Pro R to give it more space. This kilohertz convolver, which is actually quite important because it kind of transforms the transients of the original signal quite a bit. For that I used the noise phaser impulse response. So kind of mellows the transients out of the knives, which I found quite nice. And finally there's a stereo spread, which is widening the signal quite a bit because I kind of had this idea that the knives are like all around Booker. Booker is the main character, by the way, of Bioshock Infinite, in case you didn't know. And yeah, I just thought it would be fitting to kind of place the knives at like the wider side of the stereo field. So next up, to make this sound a little bit more scary, there's this violin riser. Which again, same thing. This is just a stock sample from Faceplant through the granular oscillator, and I'm automating the pitch right here, so it rises in pitch. And finally, there is a Serum 2 instance. No, I'm not installing the update, which is just some white noise through an LFO where the panning gets modulated by this random modulator, and the speed of the LFO gets also automated by random modulator. And this is like meant to symbolize these knives like flying around Booker's head. So that's everything from here. On the group of this like effects bus, I also put a snap heap instance, which is automating the drive of this shaper right here. And this is like so that towards the end of the riser, there's like some distortion being introduced to also introduce some tension. And I'm also compensating for the additional gain increase by removing some gain with the same macro as I'm automating the drive. There's also some compression on the whole thing to like kind of glue everything a little bit more together. And there is this EQ to kind of reduce the low end a little bit, because I thought the low end was like a little bit too present. And it's also raising up some high frequencies right here to like increase the clarity a little bit. Also, I'm pushing the gain of this bus a little bit with this saturation plugin right here. So next up, I decided I wanted to put in some additional effects, and I thought like some piano sounds would be quite fitting. So I opened up The Giant by Native Instruments, and I discovered that The Giant actually has like a cinematic library, and there are like quite some nice impact sounds in there. So let me play some of them for you. So quite dramatic, but I really like them. So I just recorded some of them with Global Sampler, and I arranged them in the design right here. There's like this big impact I layered with some of these sounds right here. And I also like reversed some of the sounds and put them as like little risers at some places. Also for when like the second hand lights up. In the original redesign there was like a little whoosh to symbolize that, so I really wanted to accent this movement in my design as well. And for that I just also used some of the sounds from the contact instrument, just arranged a little bit differently. I also put in this recording of like a wine glass being resonated by a wet finger, and I reversed that and put it in with some reverb, and I thought it sounded quite nice and horror-ish. Kind of reminds me of this Gordon Ramsay Hell's Kitchen scary violin sound effect. Also, I put in this little whoosh right here, which is just like a basic white noise whoosh I made in Serum. And I added a filter table as well with the glass twist table to give this some more meat and tonality. Nice. And lastly, let's talk about the remaining sound effects. One of them being this thunder sound I made in Serum. So I basically just looked up how to make thunder sounds in Serum, and I found this amazing tutorial. And I'm going to link it in the video description, so you can look that up from yourself. But basically, you just take like a weird noise sample, you resample it into the oscillator right here, and then you just move through this wavetable and add this other noise right here, and then you just filter it and distort it. And I got very lucky because like the second thunder hit just synced up with the video by itself. So I didn't really have to do anything. So that was quite neat. As far as processing for this goes, there's just a disperser, some low shelf I'm automating towards the start. So the low end impact is not that in your face at the start. And I'm also reducing some 173 Hertz frequencies because I thought it sounded a little bit muddy right here. And lastly, I have this atmosphere ambience sample. I just took that from Splice because I didn't really have a fitting ambience recorded myself, so I just used this one from Splice. Very nice. So that's how I made my design. At the end I kind of wanted to reflect a little bit on how the design went. So what I think went pretty well was the Foley recording. What I don't have, what the original has, is the original has is including like this body Foley of Booker. You can like really hear his like big meaty clothing, which I think was done very well in the original. What I also didn't include in this design was some of the thunder sounds that are in the original, but I kind of left out. Also, I think stylistically, my design kind of varies a little bit from the original, because the original sounds a little bit more magic-y in a way, and it's not that intense. So my design is like more dense, and there are like a lot more sounds in there, which can be a good thing because there's some more detail, but it also can be like quite overwhelming. Like I had some trouble with like mixing this design so that each sound comes through, and at the end I still think that it's like a little bit cluttered, and I could have used less sounds. But yeah, stylistically my design is like a little bit more horror inspired, probably because I've been playing the Outlast trials a lot as of recent, and I really wanted to make like some horror inspired sounds. So at the end I'm quite happy with how this design turned out, and that's it from me this time. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate if you have been watching towards the end. I'd also really appreciate a subscription and a like, and I guess I will see you in the next video.